Good morning, ladies. It is Words Matter Wednesday, and we are talking about success. And who doesn't want success, even if it's just from time to time? It feels good. Just a little bit of success, I'm winning. And we're talking about this week about how you can be winning all of the time. And we dedicated Wednesday to words because words matter. Words will change your entire world, they define your life. And just small little changes in your vocabulary will change the way that you look at the world, will change the way that you see things. And so it's very important that we start to become aware because our words, they're talking to our conscious, they're talking to our subconscious. And they're really just associations that we give. I mean, words themselves are meaningless. I don't know about you, but when I hear a foreign language, they don't mean anything to me because I don't speak the language. Now, there's a couple languages that I know some words here or there, but I don't really know what they're saying. But to them, they know what they're saying. Does that make sense? So the words that we grew up with, whatever your maiden language is, maybe you know multiple languages, and amazing to you if you do, but you associate them with a certain thing. So the gym, for example, I know what the gym is. When I go to the gym, I go lift out. I work, I there's probably weights in there and a treadmill. And when I'm in Italy, I go to La Palestra, and that is a gym. And so, but for many people, they don't know what gym means. They don't know what palestra means. They're just words, and we give associations to them. I think about this word. I'm gonna bring you in on a little secret. I think of this word that my family used. And I didn't know until I was about 14 years old that, that this was just a Sugarmeyer word. I thought those things in your nose, when you blow your nose, I thought they were called puggies because my family always said, "Oh, you have a puggy in your nose." And so I went around life thinking that those things in your nose are puggies. And I didn't figure out until I was about 14 years old when I started, talking to my friends and it just came up in a conversation, like, "Oh yeah, you got like a little puggy right here." They're like, "Excuse me?" I'm like, "Yeah, you got like a little puggy right here." And they're like, "I don't think that's a thing." And I'm like, "Hold the phone." And speaking of phone, I couldn't just pull out my phone and Google because I'm that old that, I had to go to like an encyclopedia, or I probably went home and I asked my mother or something. But puggy was a word that only my family used. That is not something that is widely known. But to me, in my brain, even 40 years later, yeah, it is a word that I associate with booger. Puggy, booger, they mean the exact same thing. So my point is words, we give the association, and that's why words matter, because what we say matters to ourselves, and because we all want to get up and win every day. On my Clubhouse profile, on the bottom it says, "I win every day because I choose to." That should be a t-shirt. I win every day because I choose to. And we talk about choice so much on this in the show because choice is everything. You have the choice to do anything, everything, all the things. You can change the way you look at things. And so we're winning. So the first thing I wanted to talk about is this word failure. And I will talk about this till kingdom comes because it is one that is so sneaky and tricky. I want you to think about a situation that didn't turn out the way that you thought it was. Maybe it was a marriage. Maybe it was something at work. Maybe you didn't get into that school. Maybe you didn't get that promotion. Maybe your kids did something that you just didn't expect. But there was something in your life. I guarantee you there's something in your life that you didn't expect. And we all have that. Now, think about that for a minute. And what are some of the emotions that are going on within you? What are some of the feelings? And I'm just going to take a big old guess at this. Probably doesn't feel all that great. Yeah. Doesn't feel that great to say, sorry, yeah, you didn't get that job. Oh yeah, you didn't get that promotion. Mm, you're not able to. Yeah, you're not. Yeah. Oh, that project. Yeah, that was a big, you didn't hit the deliverable. All these things were like, ugh, I don't feel good about it. And we associate these things with this word called failure. Well, I failed at it. And what is that telling our brain? We don't associate with failure. Now, I'll put a little caveat here. I've had this conversation with some people, and they're like, I think failure is a great thing. And I'm like, okay, super. So, I am talking about here the 99.9% of us that look at failure as not a positive thing. Now, you may say, yeah, but I love failure. Failure's amazing. Okay, fine. That's fine. You can still be a part of this conversation, but I'm going to put you over here. We're talking about it as if failure is not a positive thing. And so when these things come up in our life, we get then down on ourselves. And our shoulders slump a little more. And it feels like we have more weight on us. And it's like, man. And then you start to think about all the other times that you failed in your life. And you think about all of the, times and the people and the places. And boy, it just starts feeling heavy. So, this word, you want to come say hi? Here, look at this one. You want to say hi? Yeah, say hi. That is Booger. Booger. I could also call her Puggy. Booger is such an important word in my family that I named my cat Booger. So, yes, that is her name, or Boogies for short. But we associate this word failure with something negative. And then our minds start to go into, man, I always fail. And when we start to give ourselves all of these examples of why things aren't working out in our world. And then we just get down. And then maybe we're in bed on a Saturday and we think, gosh, nothing goes my way. I'm such a failure. Here are all the reasons why. And it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to be in that mode. So what do we do? I stopped subscribing to that word failure. I decided to take that entirely out of my vernacular. And that's a choice that you can make. I'm going to say that again. I decided to remove the word failure because I don't look at failure as this, like, this is so super. I mean, I understand how they can make it into a super thing, but usually that word is not positive for me. So I just decided to remove it. And you can do that. I don't believe in failure, and I'll show you how. Everything in your life, I now have cat hair all over my face. Everything in your life, everything, you can start to look at it and categorize it. So when I have something that doesn't turn out the way that I think it is going to turn out, I look for what I can learn. And by the way, I'm always looking for what I can learn in my life, even when things do go well, because we should be life learners. We should always be looking for what are the lessons? Where's the silver lining? What positive can I take from this? We should always be looking at everything like that, especially when things don't turn out the way that we think that they're going to. Why? Because history repeats itself and you don't want to get stuck. I think about those when you're driving and there's those circular roundabouts and you're just like, how do I get out of this thing? And you're going round and round and round. It's like, I need to get out. So how do you get out? Well, you learn. You learn how to shift lanes when you're in the circle. You learn how to exit from that. If not, you're going to continue to go round and round. And I don't know about you, but I've done multiple rounds before I've figured out how the heck to get out of those things because they confuse my brain. So when something happens that I don't expect, I start to look at how I can learn from it. So everything that doesn't turn out the way that I think it is, it has now become a lesson. It has become an opportunity for growth. I can grow from it. They say, fool me once, shame on you, but fool me twice, shame on me. Why do they say that? It's because We need to grow. It's okay if these things happen, but just learn and grow from it. And maybe it won't be quite as extreme the next time or severe or whatever that may be. Yeah, that relationship didn't turn out the way that you thought it was. Okay, what went right with it? What didn't go right? Or what can you learn from? And then next time, apply those to your next relationship. Continue to grow, continue to expand. Our life is nothing but building blocks, and we are building on top. And the only way you grow is to get uncomfortable. And you have to go through the lesson in order to grow. It's one thing to read things in a book, it's another thing to live them. You know what I'm talking about? It is one thing to read, to study, to become that expert. But until you actually go out in the world and you are applying that, until you are putting those things in motion, that's when it really becomes powerful in your life. So you can have book smart and you can have street smart. And through our lives, we are becoming street smart because we're going through these things. So they don't have to be failures. They can be successes because you have made the decision to grow. I am 6'1", and I know everything about growing pains. They don't feel amazing. They don't. I grew half a foot in 2 years. I had stretch marks all over my back and they were red because I grew so quickly that didn't feel good. But the only way I was going to get tall was to go through that. And I don't look at this as, oh, that was a big failure. No, I was growing. So why don't we start to look at everything in our life as growth, as an opportunity? Wow, that didn't turn out the way that I thought it was. Let me learn from that and come back swinging harder next time. What more positive response would that do inside of us? So, as you thought about that thing that didn't turn out the way that you thought it did, think about the lessons that came from that. And here is a very, very powerful exercise. I still have cat hair like all over. Look at where you're at now and look at that thing that didn't turn out the way that you thought it would. And I want you to map your life and start to look for the positive things. Yeah, I didn't think that I was going to be divorced by the time I was 30. And this is honest to good in my life. I didn't think I was going to be divorced when I was 30. But because I was divorced, I ended up moving out to California because I wanted to be closer to my sister. And I found this job. And after 6 months, that job then took me to Texas, which I stayed with that company for a few years, which then I got to another job and I got a promotion and I was able to travel the world more. And that job, because I was working in that company, I ended up moving down to this place called Oak Cliff. And when I was there, Booger, that cat that you just met, rescued me. And she's the best thing that I've ever had in my entire life. So my point is that we can start to map these things and say, yeah, but if I hadn't have gone through that divorce, I wouldn't have that cat. And there is a direct correlation. So start to map these things differently in your brain. You can take anything from here being negative to here being positive. And it's the things that you have in your life. It's the lessons, it's the growth, but only you can define that. The other thing I want to talk about before we wrap up is that no one can define success for you except for you. No one. Here's an example, and I alluded to this yesterday. So I jumped out of corporate. I went on this entrepreneurial journey, and it is, oh, hey, good morning, Renee. Hey, Nene. I went on this, I just saw that you typed in the chat. So I went on this entrepreneurial journey, and so I jumped out of corporate and my life completely changed. I went from having a paycheck to having nothing, no paycheck. But lots of lessons, lots of growth. Okay. So I went over to my friend's parents' house for dinner one day. And they were asking me, the dad said, so, what have you been up to? And it had been a few months since I jumped out of corporate. And anybody that tells you that you can jump out of corporate and start making money immediately, um, it could happen. The truth is, if you are building a business, if you are building a company or corporation, these take time. There is no get rich overnight kind of plan. It takes time. In addition, I jumped out and was doing something completely different than what I was doing before. I spent 15 years in corporate America. I worked in Afghanistan. I was a contractor for Department of Defense, Department of State. I worked for private and public companies, all within the IT space. Now I'm jumping out and I'm taking what I had been doing part time. I'm doing this now full time, but really, coaching, building websites, building funnels, email lists, all the things that was completely new to me. I had never done any of this. And so I was learning. And when you learn something new, it takes you 10 times as long as somebody that's proficient. And that's it. You take it's practice and you get faster. That's just how it is. So I've been out of corporate for a few months and I was working on creating this course, unbelievable course. It's called the Untouchable Mindset. And it's all about how you get your mind so strong when the world happens and, chaos is happening. How do you stay in a state of peace? And it's all about learning all those tools in our mind. I call it the Untouchable Mindset. And he said, so Jen, what have you been up to? And I said, well, I created this course. And the thing is, when you build a course, you have to think about what's the material, what's the user experience. I had to find a developer. I had to think about, all the testing that went in with that. And I had to integrate my, so that I could take credit card payments. And I mean, there were just a bazillion things underneath the surface that had to happen. And it was a really big deal for me. So I said, and I'm so proud of this. And I'm like, I created this course and it was just an unbelievable experience. And it's just great content. I'm so proud of it. And I'm excited for the good that it's going to do in this world. And it had been out a week, y'all. I'm not even joking about this. He does this. He says, so how much money have you made? Now that in and of itself, now I can interpret that however I want. The way it sounded was sort of like, and I believe that to this gentleman, that his definition of success was associated monetarily. So, did I make any money in that 1 week that it had been out? That Jen Sugarmeyer, as this new entrepreneur, is coming out? Did everybody rush and go buy it? No, they didn't. And you know what? At that point, I didn't know if anybody was ever going to buy it. But I made the decision that regardless, when I looked back at my journey and what it took for me to put that in there, to get this course out into the world, that in and of itself was a success. That in and of itself, because it showed my journey of where I came from, where I didn't have a solid mindset to where I now did. Wow, that was a journey. Those of you that have heard my story know that I'm in recovery. And that was one of the hardest things that I had ever gone through, was learning to love myself. And everything, all of those lessons, all of the failures throughout my life, all of those things that happened that I decided to take on as a lesson, I boiled into this course. And it's not a course on recovery. It's a course on how to activate the mind, the power of choice, learning control, all of these concepts that we talk about here. So I look back at my life and I'm like, man, that was a long journey for me to get here. And wow, I learned so much in the process of finding a developer and getting something out online and doing all the things. And I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but I know that I'm better because of it. So was this a success? Is this a success? Yes. And I made that decision. So I don't know what this man's definition, or when he implied, because it was an implication. He didn't say, Jen, I think you're a failure if you don't make money. But I decided that I wanted to, very firm in my brain, that I wanted to define this completely differently. That I wanted to show up in my own space and be my own cheerleader and say, you know what, Jen, I am proud of you. You've done amazing things. Look at how far you've come. Look at how much you've learned from this experience. And that was a decision that I made. It was not failure, it was, in fact, a win. So, I want you to know that your words matter and how you tell yourself, what you associate with that experience, what you associate with those words matter because we're talking to our conscious, we're talking to our subconscious. And I want you to have a beautiful experience through life. So start to look at when you think of this is a real easy one to do. And I say easy because I mean, just look at anything that you don't look favorably on in your life. And then start to, I guess that maybe I shouldn't say easy, whatever. You can use whatever word you want, but start to look at what are the lessons? What are the silver lining? What can you learn from those? Where is the growth? What do you now have today because of that situation? And it changes it completely. So many of us get stuck in the past and we're like, well, how do we learn to let go? Ladies, this is how you do it. You learn to let go because you can change the way you look at these situations and you say, I am no longer going to look at that as a failure. That is no longer going to hold me down. I look at this as growth. And I am amazing because that happened and I am grateful for it. So, ladies, I love you. I honor you. You matter. I want us to get up and get intentional about our lives. We are all about elevating our minds so that we can walk out in the world and we can be amazing human beings that we know that we are. We are, ladies. Think about everything that we can do. You're a rock star, and I want you to know it. And I want you to go out there and be whomever you set out today. So, who do you want to be today? You want to show up powerfully? Then tell yourself, I'm going to show up powerfully today. Go do it. It's amazing. I love you. We're going to be back here tomorrow. We're here live 6 a.m. Central Standard Time every single day. And if you miss it, that's okay. You can watch it on YouTube. That's the beauty of YouTube. But if you want to join me live, just like Miss Renee Hicks did, then you can join me live. So I will see you back here tomorrow. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, because that's how we blow up this algorithm so that we get more women empowered to go do their best every single day. I'm coming up. I want the world to know. I gotta let it show. Yeah, I'm learning the words.